Hello and welcome back to my channel, guys. Today, since we've been on the subject, I want to talk to you about horror and the many different layers it has. But I'm gonna talk about gaming because obviously this is a gaming channel. So let's dive deeper into different types of horror, and maybe you'll find out which one you love the best. Let's start in the first layer, kids horror. This is the horror for beginners, the horror that if you want to dip your toe in and start getting your mind and your mental into horror, this is where you start, in layer number 1. The best game in this category has to be Little Nightmares. We got Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2. Also, Little Nightmares 3 is coming out soon. So this is a perfect example of beginner horror. It's scary enough, but it's not scary to the point where you can't progress forward. It's simple mechanics and the basic horror. This is basic horror. The first layer of horror. This is where you start, guys. Now, I do have a lot of games classified as kids horrors, which I'll show later. But for now, just know that this is the best one in this category. Now, the next type of horror I want to talk to you about is stealth horror. Stealth horror is basically the type of horror game where you just are helpless and you just gotta hide from the enemy. You gotta hide from the monster because the monster is coming. Hide. This is stealth horror. Now, the best game for stealth, 100%, the one who achieves the most horror and the most immersive gameplay where you could only hide from the monster, is 100% Alien Isolation, where you are alone hiding from the alien. Out of all the stealth games, this one is it, boys. This one is top tier, where any sound you make and traversing any hallway is just scary as hell. It's so damn scary, guys. Plus, you're all by yourself, helpless, and if you get caught by the alien, it's just over, guys. It's just over. This game truly achieves an atmosphere of dread, of atmosphere of isolation, and it's just a horrible experience, and that's why it makes it number 1 in stealth horror of all time. Now, the next franchise I want to talk to you about, not franchise, the next genre of horror that I want to talk to you about is the slasher. One of the most fun, in my opinion. One of the most, my favorite type of movies are slasher movies. You know what a slasher is. The slasher, especially in gaming, there's nothing better than actually getting the ability to play as the slasher. And of course, the king of this type of gaming is none other than Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight gives you the ability to play as the slasher and chase your victim down. Now, this game could go either way. If you play as a survivor, then it's a whole different playstyle. But playing as the slasher, it's so satisfying. Unfortunately, these type of games have been plagued by a lot of competitive gaming, and I feel like they're not as scary as they used to be when they first came out, that nobody knew what they were doing. That's when these type of games were peak horror. But still, there's something satisfying about chasing your victims down, horrifying them, and just downing them. When you play as the slasher, there's a certain satisfaction that only Dead by Daylight and a little few could give you. But this is the slasher type of gaming. Now the next type of game I want to talk to you about are the survivor horrors, also known as apocalypse horror in the movies. Survival horrors is all about post-apocalypse scenarios or end-of-the-world scenarios where you gotta scavenge for resources so you could survive this wasteland, usually filled by monsters, mutants, or something crazy. Survival horrors always are very long and tedious, where you got some kind of base building and slowly but surely you gotta survive as long as you can until you escape the scenario, or you could survive forever. Technically, zombie horror, also known as zombie survival horror, technically counts as survival horror. For me personally, I could only talk about games I've actually played and experienced, but for me personally, no survivor style game reaches the level of Saints and Sinners. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. It's a VR game, bro. And it's the most immersive, most terrifying survivor experience I have ever played. Not only do you gotta go around actually looting stuff because you need the components for crafting, but going around through towns, zombie infested towns, having to loot and everything under a time limit, because if the time limit runs out, you're gonna get a herd of zombies on top of you. Bro, no game gave me such the chills. Your weapons break and everything. It's horrible. It's horrible, but it's essential for a survival style game. Usually survival style games do the same things. You gotta, your weapons break, you gotta eat, you get cold, all these type of things, and this game definitely check marks all the boxes in an amazing horror survival world. This is number one in survival horror, in my opinion. And now the next category, you already know what it is, a fan favorite, Mascot Horror. This is the new era of horror, which is you take toys and you take cute little things that usually children find terrifying when they're young, and you take it and you turn it into a real horror. In my opinion, the one who started this all was Chucky. Chucky the doll was the first toy to ever be created into horror. And from that, we have so many toys, so many plushies that have come to destroy us that is just crazy. But that's the Mascot Horror genre. So it's surprise to no one that the number one Mascot Horror, in my opinion, is Five Nights at Freddy's. Especially Five Nights at Freddy's 1, where you have the first experience is always gonna be the best and most horrifying experience, guys. The first experience you have with any game is gonna be king. And FNAF 1 has everything. The ambience, the feeling of being helpless, the fact that you're not in control. You have to struggle so hard to be in control, and that's why, in my opinion, FNAF 1 is the best one. Not only because later it turned more, it had so many mechanics that it turned into a tedious task, while FNAF 1 was just simple. Close the doors, conserve energy. Nice and simple, yet effectively terrifying. Now, I do believe that mascot horrors do fall into the cheap jump scare genre. Like a lot of FNAF and a lot of Mascot Horrors just fall into this jump scare. And well, it's all about the atmosphere, and FNAF 1 also has that. If you create the perfect atmosphere, the jump scares will matter and make such more of a difference until you play it so much that you're just not scared no more, unfortunately. But this is the greatest Mascot Horror game out there, FNAF 1. Now let's talk about the most fun genre of horror out there: action horror. Action horror games are usually the most fun, but not really the most scary. In stealth horror, you gotta hide and you're helpless. In survival games, you're always at risk of your weapons breaking and going hungry. But in action horror, you have an arsenal of weapons. It's either a shotgun, a rifle, a sword, whatever it is. You have weapons at your disposal to fight back against all the horrors that come at you. And usually these games, even though they could be horror, they could scare some people. Usually these type of games are more fun. It's more of an experience where you fight back, where you gotta do the opposite. Instead of run from danger, you run towards it to destroy it, because the real horror is you, and you about to destroy everything that comes into your path. Now, for me at least, in my opinion, the undisputed king of action horror has to be Left 4 Dead. Whether it is Left 4 Dead 1 or Left 4 Dead 2, and nobody could deny that Left 4 Dead is the king of action horror, putting you in a scenario where the action never ends, but at the same time such a dreadful scenario that you are really wondering if you're gonna survive. The thing about it is you play with friends and it makes it so much fun. So it could be in a horrible situation, yet you could be laughing so hard, because this game, this is exactly what I mean when this type of games are more fun than actually scary. The Left 4 Dead games just are so great. When we're talking about action, we're talking about exactly that. Huge firepower like machine guns and shotguns just to mow down any horror that comes out you. In this type of scenario, you're not really afraid, more like just ready to shoot something. That's how I feel all the time when I play these type of games. The true horror comes when you find yourself in a scenario where everybody goes down and you're by yourself. Now then it turns into a real horror. Or if you're that one person that gets left all the way behind and the group just kept going and you're left alone, bro. But no one could deny that the Left 4 Dead series is the king of action horror. Period. In my opinion. Now let's talk about my favorite type of horror: cosmic horror. Also known as Lovecraftian horror, because it's well known or well speculated that Lovecraft came up with it. But the horror of the unknown, it's such a primal horror that everybody has in their DNA. And for me, that is the most horrible and scary thing that you could possibly. Usually you're up against an unknown force and you don't know. That's the scariest part. What the hell are you facing? And it's usually when you find out, if you find out, it's a force that it's godly and you cannot win against it. You are in hopeless despair and it's just hope is all lost. That is cosmic horror. In my head, in my brain, there's nothing worse than actually going into the ocean, for example, and it's nighttime, dark waters, and you have no idea what's down there. Your imagination and your thoughts go wild. There is nothing worse, especially when something happens, you see something weird come out of the water, and it reaffirms that there's something there, making you imagine even more, because now it's worse. Now you know there's something there, and you have no idea what it is. If you're swimming and something pulls on your leg aggressively, and the water is so dark you don't know, that it's extreme fear of the unknown, bro. That's horrible. See something in the shadows and be so scared of it exactly because you don't know what the hell that is. And you're like, what the hell is that? What is that? Nothing's more scary than not knowing. That's a fact. Nothing gives me more fear and more memories of fear than when I first played Dead Space. Dead Space to me is everything. That it's fear of the unknown and not knowing what the hell is about to come out of there. And usually when it comes out, it's exactly what you didn't want to see. Some horrible, abominable nightmare. This game to me, till this day, still is an experience that I dread going back to. But you know what? I think I'm gonna go and play the remake on my channel 100% because I want to relive. They did a remaster of this, and I do want to relive the horror. There's something broken about me that I just enjoy these type of things. I guess I've been into this for way too long. But Dead Space 100%. If you wanna, this is top tier horror. Not like kids horror, the little first step. No, this is top tier horror. If you want to prove to yourself that you are top notch horror, you go and play Dead Space and you pass the game. And then by the end of it, you'll come out a man 100%. Everything from the ambience, the set of loneliness, that everything this game throws at you, how everything looks, the fact that you're alone, the atmosphere, the scenarios you're in, the fact that you feel so, you have weapons yet somehow you still feel helpless. Bro, this game is a masterpiece. I could not emphasize that more. This game is truly a horror experience that I actually kind of don't want to go back to, but I will 100% because this is to me, this is what horror it's all about, guys. There is a subgenre called psychological horror that usually exists in movies, but in games it's not really a separate genre on itself, not that I know of. But in my experience, the psychological horror really starts when you're young, playing horror games. Because if it wasn't for those classic games that I played when I was really young, I would have never had the psychological broken mind I have nowadays. And some of those classic games that I played and had my first experiences with, those are the games that shaped me to be a horror fan. For example, one of those games being Manhunt. I was so young when I played Manhunt. And Manhunt, for me, Manhunt maybe is not even a horror game, but to me it was horror, bro. This game, you are a badass, but bro, this game kind of traumatized me and this game broke me, bro. This is the game that probably made me a messed up individual nowadays. And when I said messed up individual, I mean the fact that I love these terrible horror games that not a lot of people could go really into. This game started it all, bro. It just has this eerie feeling and this snuff film. It's just kind of vibe the game. When we talk about a game that has a messed up vibe, this is it. And this was one of my first childhood horrors. Another game that made me love horror is this game called Nightmare Creatures, especially Nightmare Creatures 2. This game, I don't think anybody remembers this game, but this to me was such an amazing game where you play as this psychopath against, and you're in a nightmare, you're in some kind of asylum in a world filled with monsters, yet you're a monster yourself as well, bro. This game, to me, I love this game. This game was so good in my opinion, bro. It's definitely one of those games that I always remember to be one of the best first horror games that I ever played. It was just, this to me was scary. This was scary to me back then, 100%. It was just, when you're a child, you have so much imagination, bro. And not for nothing, if they remake this, I bet it still holds up, man. If they just remake it with modern day full HD, just make it from scratch, just a whole remaster, I think this game will hold up. It's called Nightmare Creatures 2, bro, and this game also kind of just traumatized me and made me such a dark horror fanatic. I think these are the games that made me messed up, man. And there's good reasons why. When I was back in the day, these graphics were it, and bro, this is horrible. By those times, this was peak horror, and I was playing it. Okay, so I just want to finish off the video with my tier list of horror games, guys. My tier list of horror games. I could only talk about the horror games that I played throughout my life, because it wouldn't be fair to put games that I've never played before. In my experience, this is the ultimate tier list in horror games, guys. In my personal ultimate tier list of horror games. How I divide them, how much I like them. Obviously, the ones I put on the front are what I consider the best in that type in that category. I mean, guys, these are the games that I've loved. These are the games that has shaped me throughout the years. And in a way, I kind of love all of them, some more than others. Like, some of them are not scary, like slasher style. They're not really scary, but they do fall in the horror genre, and they could be really fun. The other thing is, for the beginners, this is the tier list for anybody that wants to start playing actual horror style titles. Obviously, from the scariest ones, working your way down to the non-scary ones. And then, what else? Survival, obviously, these are, I already explained this. Mascot Horror. Yep, this looks just about right. And this one, Ultimate Custom Night, is just the master at jump scares. Or not even the master. I do not enjoy this game at all. It's tedious. It's just jump scare after jump scare. This is more of a, if you want to be bold and stressed out, you play this one. If you want a horror experience, you play FNAF 1. Left 4 Dead, as I said, closely followed by Call of Duty Zombies, bro. It's very similar. You play with your friends against herds of zombies. When it comes to horror action, bro, all of these games are 100% horror action, and could be they actually are some of the most fun games to play in the horror genre. And this is one of my all-time favorites that should probably go up here, since it's a classic. But right in the end, yeah, why not? What else? Then we have Cosmic Horror. Bro, if you playing Cosmic Horror and you go deep into it, it could be some of the most scary. The most scary. This Cosmic Horror, these type of games right here are the complete opposite of beginner games. These are the games that change you by the time you finish them. Like, you have to go through the whole experience to really have that transformation, and you gotta do it alone. Those are the two key features. You gotta do it alone, and you gotta go through the whole thing. And these games all these games were an experience that I definitely came out through the other side a little bit traumatized, but so accomplished. And like I said, Dead Space is number one. And the most greatest games in my experience ever, bro. Dead Space, the original Dead Space. I'm gonna play this one. I'm definitely gonna play this one in my channel. I already have it. I just gotta make time for it. Time is always an issue. Manhunt, Nightmare Creatures 2, Clock Tower, such a good horror classic game back in the day. Parasite Eve is the opposite of Omori. Omori is kind of like horror RPG for kids. Parasite Eve is horror RPG for adults. Bro, this back in the day was so good and so terrifying. And then Onimusha is just a series that I particularly love, but it's basically a Resident Evil type game, but with samurais. I loved it my whole life, and I'm still a big fan. But yeah, guys, this is my tier list of horror games. Actually, stealth horror, Alien Isolation, these games right here, I think they're top tier horror as well. These stealth horrors, especially these games, if you go through these games and you actually come out through the other side, you'll definitely come out a different person. 100%. These games are kind of an experience on itself, for sure. Actually, stealth horror should have been up here, but action horror is so fun. But yeah, you gotta respect the stealth horror, especially Alien Isolation. My god. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna leave it right there before the video is way too long. I appreciate you guys so much for being here with me, talking about the horror genre that I love so much, and hopefully expand your experience by playing new games that you never knew about or never thought of playing, so you could grow your love and your experience in this shadowy realm. And I'll see you in the next nightmarish video. Peace out, guys. Run! No, 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 no!